Come on, Barbie. Let's go party. Come on, Barbie. Let's go party. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten green medicine brownies before, but this is the trick on how to get them out of the package. You save this little piece that you rip off. And then when you go inside, it's a little tin like this. And then you take your thing, and on the rounded edge, so not the ripped edge, this is the edge you ripped it off, but the sealed edge, you just go around in a circle, and then you slowly, as you're turning, push down a little bit, and it'll naturally go around and just scoop itself right out, because these brownies are like basically the gooeyest brownies I've ever had, so it's very difficult to get them out. Here, some ass kickers. Can't eat the whole thing or I'll get like too faded. Half seems about right. That is one of the best tasting brownies I've ever had in my entire life. Just hands down, delicious fucking brownie. It literally is like cooked but dough. And they use, in this one particularly, they use Dutch processed cocoa. Listen. That shit's fire. Oh, I better close all the windows, mosquitoes. Right back. Oh, it smells like clean laundry in here. I just got my laundry out of the car. That smells so good. It rained while I was gone. It rained inside my house. Hello, Birdie. Hi, Birdie. This is Birdie. My sweet girl. My sweet girl. You are my sweet girl. I should start to provide them with water. That's what I didn't want to do. Okay, I made it. Isn't your baby cute? I have 5 babies. If anyone lives near Lane County, Oregon, and wants a kitten, I have 5 available. All will be hand trained, hand reared, you know, super sweet, very tame, but also ruthless fucking mousers. My girl, my mama girl, always teaches her babies how to hunt mice so good. Oh, I'm gonna run out of jewel pods. If I can just make this jewel pod last till tomorrow, I'll be fine, but I have to work tomorrow. Before I left my house, I had $38, and I put $35 in the tank and got Elliot a slushie on the way home, or on the way to take him to his dad's, not on the way home, but on the way out. And now I'm broke. $0. That window's shut. Shut my windows. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Are you trying to go outside by yourself? Well, you have to wait for me, dude. What are you thinking? Dude, there is a strong smell of petrichor right now because it was 95 degrees here today, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere a big rain cloud appeared and it started raining on the hot concrete. So now it smells like hot, wet, like after it rains, and it smells that way a lot in Florida, but you don't get it very often here in Oregon. This is the first time I've ever smelled it here in the almost 10 years I've been here. Pretty cool. I am in a vehicle, yes. What makes you think that they're good guys if they're asking for farts? Oh, what's good with guys asking for farts? I see. I don't have a coke booger. It's a nose ring, you retard. Didn't do any snortables at all. Thank you, Mr. Bojangles. All right, let's put on something to listen to.
I've just dropped the big story. Hold the exact same political position on Con Inc. Set it up, maybe. Okay. You're going to need it because there's a lot we're going to talk about, and we're going to dive pretty deep on some of this stuff. So I hope you permit me that. It's Sunday. It's a little cap and gown. We've had a lot of fun the last couple of days. Had to wear a lawyering gear. Had to play a country judge and lawyer. But today's going to be a little more serious. We're going to do a little cap and gown. We're going to begin a deep dive on a character that I'm kind of finding is pretty disgusting if you don't mind me saying so. So let's jump right in it. I have to set it up this way. You remember immediately after the ballroom, I don't even want to call it a shooting. I don't know what it was. Some sort of assault on the ballroom where a guy goes running, many shots are fired, but in the end of the day, no one seems to have gotten shot. Maybe a Secret Service agent took a round to a vest. The suspect, even though it looks like they shot 5, 6, 8 shots at him, somehow Spidey-Man or Matrixed his way out of it and didn't get hit. And he ends up face down on the ground in some sort of looks like those blankets they put on you after you run a marathon or a 5K or something, you overheat, or a 10K or whatever. Those little like silvery blankets, and he's face down and there's no blood anymore. He's not hit. He did not get injured in a shootout, an actual shootout. So you saw that, and then immediately you saw the right wing, or Con Inc., the mainstream right wing, mainstream MAGA. You saw them go into overdrive with one of the weirdest psyops I've ever seen in the history of social media. Because nobody after that thought of a ballroom. Not a single person who watched what happened that night thought we need a ballroom except these people. Andrew Kovette, Libs of TikTok, Jack Posobiec, End Wokeness, Wall Street Map, Megan Israel, on and on, Brylan Hollihan, Randy Fine. They all thought simultaneously within 10 minutes of each other, wow, it'd be great if we had a ballroom at the White House. Nobody else on the planet was thinking about it. I guarantee you, when you saw that event take place, when you first heard the news of it, I was at dinner with my sister and my cousin. We had some kids at the table with us. We come out of dinner. I see the news of what happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It never crossed my mind, and I stay pretty plugged in. It never crossed my mind. Now, for half a second, you know what? The White House needs a ballroom. This is getting ridiculous. Never crossed my mind. I guarantee you, how many people? We have almost 11,000 people on right now and climbing pretty quickly. None of you thought that either. Not a single one of you thought we need a ballroom. Not one of you made that connection. But all these people simultaneously did. All these MAGA influencers, all these pro-Iran war they all hold the exact same political position on nearly every single issue. They're pro-Erica Kirk, they're pro-Iran war, they're pro-greatest ally, and they all simultaneously thought we need a new ballroom. The White House needs a ballroom. It's weird. It's not natural. It is 100% a manufactured psyop. So I spent the weekend thinking about this because it really bothered me. That compilation really bothered me. That is the kind of stuff that really gets me going. That's why I like being on this side of the political aisle, not the left, not the right, but this sort of anti-establishment part of the political aisle. That's where I find myself on almost every issue. What does the establishment do? I want to do the opposite. Oh, the establishment wants to go to war? That must be a bad idea. Oh, the establishment wants to raise taxes? That's probably a bad idea. Oh, the establishment wants to cut this tax? That's probably a bad idea. It doesn't matter what the establishment's doing, it's probably a bad idea. So I like where I find myself. These guys are all establishment. These guys all thought simultaneously we needed a ballroom. So it has really bothered me. I've spent the whole weekend now thinking about what does this mean? And then I had to start thinking about it in the context of Candace Owens saying, Mikey McCoy reached out to her through a third party and said, you need to take a closer look at Andrew Kovette. And I thought, I think Andrew Kovette was on that ballroom list. I think he was one of the tweets. And turns out he was. So I pulled up the tweet just to verify it for myself. I remembered seeing him on the long list of people who had tweeted that night, but I wanted to see precisely what time was that tweet. What time was that tweet? Was he early to the party or was he late? Oh, he was early. Check this out. This was the night of the big kerfuffle there in Washington, D.C. This is 9:30 p.m. my time. That's 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. He did not get out of the ballroom until 10 o'clock. Within 30 minutes of getting out of the ballroom, within 30 minutes of learning what had happened, he's already on social media pimping this ballroom. So in light of that, I think, okay, we've got a problem on our hands here. We have got to get to the bottom of this. And that's when Candace dropped the big story. That's when she dropped the big story. If you missed it, I'll play a brief clip of it here. If you didn't miss it, it's worth seeing again because it's awesome. It is awesome. Here is
yes, darling, I'm coming for you.
Show late last week, and yes, I'm moving kind of quickly. That's what I'm saying.
One moment.
I have to go rewatch parts of this. I have so much information to share tonight. If I go too slowly, we'll never get there.
Comply with me. Like I said, release the entire chat. You have my full permission, and it must be met with the sentencing. You guys agree? You agree? I must sentence him to more truth. An announcement. I must sentence Andrew and Erica to more truth. That is always the sentencing in this court. Now,
I'm coming.
What would be the appropriate level of truth to sentence you to? I got it. Okay. Now, since what you are attempting to falsely insinuate is that I went into that conversation with Erica on December 15th, already convinced of her guilt, which is patently untrue.
Yes, darling, I'm coming for you.
Just how untrue that insinuation is, okay? With the private revelation that I made to Erica Kirk, information that I gave her that I would not have given to her had I immediately suspected her of her guilt. I would have given her no information regarding this. And it was a private revelation to me about you. I don't know if they told you this. This is a really bad way to find out, but you tried to surprise me yesterday. Damn. Surprise! Surprise, shouty, as they say. You see, Angie, what I told Erica Kirk was that part of the reason why I suspected Turner USA, why I thought she should be looking into other people, is because someone at Turning Point USA got a message out to me. And that message was that I need to look further into Andrew Kovette. Wow, Turning Point USA people telling me to look further into Andrew Kovette. Was it Aubrey, as he tries to insinuate? No. It was Mikey McCoy. Mikey McCoy got a message out to me via a third-party person that I should look more into Andrew Kovette. Why would he do that, Andrew? Why would Mikey McCoy say that I should look more into? When I did look into, things got very shady. And that's when I started going, yes, who the hell is Andrew Kovette, actually? He's always not a very good PR agent. Everybody can see that.
There we go.
He's a bit of a blubbering idiot.
Okay, so we'll use
Who is Andrew
this
Kovette?
one
What are
for
his
the darker
ties?
components.
What are his family ties here? And the
This
more I
one
look,
for the lighter ones.
I did start to see more things. So as
and then
you
I will
pretend like we're all just conspiracy theorists and nobody had any good information,
figure it out.
as you
As
fire a bunch of employees, like I said, you still cannot produce the information that you are claiming that Aubrey Leitch gave to me that I share on this platform.
All right. We've got enough. Now we know what Mikey McCoy said. We know why she shared it. And I want to put a limit on it because I'm seeing a lot of people trying to overstate what she said in order to attack her. A lot of the Candace detractors have spent all weekend saying, Candace is claiming that her source the entire time has been Mikey McCoy. Has been Mikey McCoy. Well, no, friend. That's not what she said. She said Mikey McCoy reached out a single time through an intermediary and said, look into Andrew Kovette. That is not the same as Candace said her source the entire time has been Mikey McCoy. Those are different verbs. Those are patently different concepts. So what do we do with this? How do we approach this? How do we live with the fact that we now have a piece of information? Oh, and I dare you, TPUSA, to say this conversation didn't take place. I dare you. I dare you to say Candace never said that. I dare you. Just like everything else, you guys refuse to denounce. You guys may send a text message to some two-bit podcaster who nobody listens to, who has small audiences, and you may send it to some third-rate home improvement blogger to try to get your story. I understand your tactics. They're not new to me. I get it. They're low budget. They're terrible. You're a bad PR agency, TPUSA. You get bad PR strategy and tactical advice. You guys don't do this well. You're way out of your league. You need Charlie back, but unfortunately, he's not available. I dare you guys. You guys will never come out and denounce the things that are not true because you're scared to death of what's going to come out if you do. I get that. I get it. I 100% understand why you won't do it, Andrew. I understand why you guys won't do it. But I dare you to come out and say, Candace never said that. That's nonsense. No. She did. She told Erica that. Guaranteed. That's why you won't come out and deny it. That's why you won't come in. Nevertheless, what do we do with that information? So Mikey says, look into Andrew Kovette. Well, let's start that process. Let's look into who is this guy? How did he end up in Charlie's life? Well, here is his LinkedIn profile. The founder and CEO of ATK Company. I'm guessing T is his middle name. ATK. So I got a little bit here of his education, University of Washington. He was a account producer account executive at Go West Creative Group for a few years. Not sure what they did, don't care. Development producer for just a few months in 2012 at Signet Media Group. And then there's a blank. You'll notice here there's a blank. Maybe I could try to make this larger for you so you guys can see the blank. Because I talked to somebody who sat through something with Andrew during this blank, believe it or not. I'll tell you more about it in a minute. But in October 12, according to LinkedIn, he's no longer working with Signet.
Hi, Ricky. You've been doing very well. How are you doing?
Light Workers Media, that's a weird company. Mark Burnett Company, until May of 2014. So there's this like 19 or 20 month gap in his resume. A lot of people that there's a gap like that when you go to prison. I'm not suggesting Andrew went to prison, but I am suggesting that this gap is pretty telling to me, frankly, pretty telling to me about where he may have been during this gap, because he's in kind of small budget, screenwriting mode. He's doing this kind of stuff. Then he leaves and he shows up with Mark Burnett. We're going to talk about Mark Burnett today. More than meets the eye when it comes to Mark Burnett. And he goes from Mark Burnett, he's only there a little over a year. Then he's at the Kairos Company for 4 years. He's there with Johnny Moore. We'll hint at Johnny Moore. We'll dig into him more later. And then while he's at Kairos with Johnny Moore, he actually opens ATK Media, and he's been there ever since. Notice TPUSA is not on this list. if I did the job I do, if I did Andrew's job for TPUSA, I wouldn't put it on this list either. There's nobody who could look at what's happened, in particular in the last 7 months, and say, boy, that's great PR. Who's the genius running that? And I'd probably hide from that too if I was doing Kovette. But nevertheless, we have this gap. And when he shows back up after this gap, he goes to work for Mark Burnett at Mark Burnett Company. So let's just, I'm not even going to do away with this. I'm going to stop sharing it, but I'm going to keep it up. We're going to come back to this in a minute. While he's working,
What are you doing?
For Cairo's
Dude.
company. While he's working for Cairo's company.
No. Get inside.
He's listed as a media contact.
All done outside.
Campaign. This is waging peace on the internet. The Jerusalem prayer team has 20 million Facebook fans. October 5, 2017. That's it right here. October 5, 2017. And if you scroll all the way down, it says contact information, Andrew Kovette. Well, that's interesting. What is the Jerusalem prayer team? Well, we figure out it is a worldwide social media initiative created by the Friends of Zion in Jerusalem. So all the way back in 2017, we've got Andrew Kovette. Now, this is 9 years, 8.5 years before Charlie dies. He is the face, he is the contact, the media contact of a Jerusalem-based Friends of Zion Heritage Center, the Jerusalem Prayer Team. Well, I'm just not satisfied with that little bit of information. I just can't find any more about it. I've got to keep digging. I don't know what to do with this. So we dig. That's what we do on this show. And we consult people who've already done this digging. Travis on X, he goes by Nilo X or Nilo X. I've got a lot of this information going from him. He starts the seed. I start pulling on the thread, and we start developing a hell of a story. But I got to show you first. So he's listed as the contact for this Friends of Zion. Well, what's his connection to the TPUSA hiring? Because I want to look at both of those, and then I want to look back at what is the Friends of Zion. Because it might be more than meets the eye. But let's go back. If you guys remember, I don't want to play the video because I want to focus more on the actual language used. This was from Andrew Kovette's New York Times interview of how he came to work at TPUSA. This is the Andrew Kovette interview that he did with Ross Douthat of the New York Times. He asks him, Douthat, you were working at Turning Point before then. And Kovette says, yeah, I'll go back a step. I was actually living and working in Hollywood. I had a job working with Mark Burnett of The Voice, Celebrity Apprentice, Survivor, and Shark Tank. He was doing those projects. Then at some point, he got into faith-based content. Well, doesn't that sound a lot like what happened after Andrew Kovette showed up at TPUSA? I mean, Survivor, Celebrity Apprentice, Shark Tank, The Voice. That's surprisingly non-Christian, non-faith-based. These are just sheer entertainment shows. This is goy slop. So he's working there. At some point, he got into faith-based content. This is seems to be a known technique these establishment types are using. Well, we can't get them with the goy slop, so let's hit them with Christianity. Let's see if that works. I was thrown into the deep end. One day we would be at Jimmy Kimmel. His name's been in the news a lot recently. Or we'd be at the nightly shows, then we'd go to CNN, and we'd go to Fox, and we'd be at a church. Oh, that's convenient. That's amazing. Well, we'll dig in. So Mark's chief of staff, Mark Burnett, his chief of staff, a guy named Johnny Moore, started a PR company. He asked me to start it with him. I wanted to write screenplays, actually. He's
a PR person?
Doing the LA thing, my head was very much in that space. I wanted to make content. So I kind of refused. And then he said, why don't you just work a couple days a week? Help me get this thing off the ground. You can do your own thing. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Johnny Moore really just pursued Andrew for no reason? Like, do you think Johnny Moore just looked at Andrew and thought, boy, there's no one else in America that can do this man's job. I just got to keep calling it over and over. Because if Andrew Kovette won't do this, I might not be successful. Johnny Moore's a pro. He's been in these businesses a long time. Andrew was a screenwriter. Why in the world is Johnny Moore so insistent that Andrew Kovette, of all people, come join him at his new company? Obviously, we know that Andrew Kovette has zero talent when it comes to PR. None. None. All you have to do is watch the last 7.5, almost 8 months of Chief USA debacling, and you'll understand exactly what I mean. Zero talent at PR. So why is Johnny Moore just following after him? Why does he keep calling him? Why does he keep saying, well, just maybe just work with me for a couple of days a week? Couple of options. One is he's lying. That didn't happen at all. Or two, there's something about Andrew Kovette and his work history that Johnny Moore finds desirable. I tend to lean towards number two. So let's go back to it. Let's see if we can figure out what it is. Along the way, we started bringing on conservative clients. PragerU was one of those clients. We ended up bringing on Blaze as a client. Well, what do you know about PragerU and Blaze? These are two companies that are totally obsessed and controlled by our greatest ally and their supporters. That's it. That's all the Blaze and PragerU are. It's greatest ally slop, top to bottom, left to right, all day long, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's all they care about. It's interesting that the only two clients he could name that Johnny Moore had in his employ were PragerU and Blaze. And this guy who can only get PragerU and Blaze as named clients you might have actually heard of is just obsessed with getting Andrew Kovette. Again, why? Why? What is it about Andrew that fits the profile of the kind of person Johnny Moore is dying to hire? At some point, Charlie came across the path of Johnny. It's in Southern Florida at some event. He said, hey, you should look into this guy. He's young. I think he's got a lot of energy. You should contact him. Here's his email. Oh, interesting. We're in the same paragraph here. PragerU, The Blaze, Charlie. One of these, at this point in time, one of these is not like the other. Charlie was decidedly different. He did not have a total, whole, global mission of supporting the greatest ally at any and all times. Not yet. He would develop that, but not at this time. Not in 2017. So you're starting to get an idea of what's going on here. Why it is Johnny Moore who has these clients. Why it is he's wanting to bring on Andrew. Why it is they're wanting to get in touch with Charlie. Charlie's picking up a little bit of influence. This is post-2016 election. A lot of people are crediting Charlie for whatever reason for almost singularly getting Donald Trump elected. And here, all of a sudden, we have somebody dying to get their grimy little paws inside of the USA. And this is Andrew speaking. So I reached out to him, meaning Charlie. Said, hey, we'd love to talk, maybe work with you. He basically ghosted for a while. In other words, don't need you. What do I need you for? Why am I going to pay you money? I got everything I need right here in-house. We're doing fine. We don't need the likes of you. And eventually he had some news story that he tried to handle on his own, didn't go so well, kind of blew up. Then he called me. Do you remember what that news story was? We covered it last time I showed this video. That news story, I'm almost convinced, I'm almost 100% positive, was the story about the girl that left TPUSA because she had said the N-word in some text messages and she said she'd hated black people. I don't, honestly, frankly, I mean, I know freedom of speech and all that, but your job is not freedom of speech. I don't blame somebody who reads those text messages on a company phone and says, I don't know that you should work here. Like, if for no other reason, it's just a total lapse in judgment that you would say that on company time. But it's also probably a good sign that, you know, maybe their values.
Oh, they had like a little hand crank.
Maybe what she was saying isn't consistent with what Charlie wanted from his organization. So I get it.
I get it. Friggin'.
But it was interesting to me. We talked about it last time. I don't want to do a whole other show on it. How that came to be. It came to be because another employee had left. My guess is that other employee turned in his phone. Somebody looks through the phone. They see those text messages because it was between employees, and then that's how she ends up getting fired. Her name was Crystal something. Can't remember her last name. Crystal something. So he says, I got to work with him via the agency for about a year. And then he basically said, hey, I like you. I'll hire you. I'll be your first client. I also want to start a podcast to help me do that. So that's how Andrew Kovette, according to Andrew, now I'm not around to hear his side of the story, but that's how he ended up working there.
It's dead.
Andrew's working for Johnny. He had been working for Mark Burnett. So was Johnny. Johnny leaves and starts his own firm. Andrew leaves and goes with him. Johnny, the only two named clients he mentions are total sellouts to our greatest ally. All of a sudden, Johnny, who is working for these two greatest ally sellouts, looks and says, you need to talk to Charlie. We need to get in touch with that guy. We need to be on his team. He needs to be part of our group. Well, he calls him. He can't get in. Charlie won't call him back. And then all of a sudden, this manufactured crisis arises. And Charlie's in deep, and the media's coming after him, and the people are manipulating the media, and they're just all over Turning Point. And all of a sudden, Andrew starts working with Turning Point, and the problem goes away. Must be nice. It's almost like it was designed to happen that way. Almost. Allegedly, in my opinion. So that's what we know about how Andrew Kovette came to work with Johnny Moore, how Johnny Moore and Andrew Kovette came to work with Charlie Kirk and TPUSA, and how Andrew ended up working solely with TPUSA after Andrew leaves Keros. He's like leaves and goes out on his own. But let's go back to the Friends of Zion. Who is the Friends of Zion? Wouldn't you know, I have their tax filing for that. And it gives us an idea of who they are. Friends of Zion. They're based in Las Vegas. Oh, a weird place for Friends of Zion to be based. Wonder what's going on there. The name of the foundation is actually Friends of the Adelson Drug Clinic, Inc. Wow, that's really weird. Friends of the Adelson Drug Clinic, Inc. Doing business as Friends of Zion. What in the world? Well, I'll spoil the surprise. When you look up Adelson Drug Clinic, this was a methadone clinic. This was a clinic to help get people off of opioids. For some reason, it was run by one of the richest people in America, Miriam Adelson. It was run by somebody with billions and billions and billions of dollars who, among other things, decides the opioid business is just something they have to get involved with. And it's in a kind of seedy part of Las Vegas. If you look up the address, you can still see the building. The building is very run down. It's got a very basic sign that says Adelson Drug Clinic or something like that. And it's one of the strangest things I can't draw a connection. I cannot figure out, other than nefarious reasons, I can't figure out a good reason why they would want this building. Why they would want this building. Now, nefarious reasons I could come up with were maybe she or her husband or some of their friends or whatever were drug addicts and they just wanted access to opioids. Methadone is an opioid, so you could take it. You could always have access to it. You could, we're prescribing it for our patients and take a little extra. That's one option. Doesn't strike me as the right option, but it could be an option. Another option is you want to traffic in drugs. And so you want to meet a bunch of seedy people who have access to a bunch of drugs. They're drug addicts. So you bring them in and you give them counseling. You figure out who their connections are. You maybe turn them and they start helping. That's option B, get involved in the drug trade. But that
He wanted to get to his bed, but she was blocking his way.
For a casino mogul, you wouldn't necessarily want your wife doing that. So that seems a little weird. So access to drugs is option one. Trafficking drugs may be option two. The third option is maybe we want to experiment on these people. Maybe we want to figure out if we can kind of drug people up and get them to do things for us. Like we have some dirty business we want done. We're casino moguls. I mean, it's not the cleanest industry you've ever. The answer is I don't know. But I thought this was very weird that Friends of Zion is actually named Friends of the Adelson Drug Clinic, Inc. And if you go down and look at the board members of Friends of Zion, the board members are Sheldon Adelson and Miriam Adelson. Those are the two of the four directors. Sheldon Adelson and Miriam Adelson. Those are your directors. So you have a drug clinic charity masquerading as the Jerusalem prayer team that's going out there and getting 20 million emails, 20 million social media profiles. Like something's going on here, and I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's a very, very strange scenario. Very strange scenario, if I do say so myself. But that is who I believe, in my opinion, allegedly, that's who Andrew was working for. That was his client. That's the campaign he was running. He was running a social media campaign, what it looks like to me anyway. I can't state this as fact. I'm just going by what I see in the filings. But he's running a social media campaign that is aiming to capture followers for a Jerusalem prayer team. It doesn't look like they do anything. They're just sending out social media posts, from what I can tell. And the directors of this are a casino mogul and his wife, who happen to be committed to our greatest ally. But that's it. But it's just like, who are these people? What are they doing? What is this operation? And what was Andrew doing for them? But regardless of any of the answer to any of those questions, we have now connected Andrew to the Adelsons. Andrew Kovette in 2017 was working for Miriam Adelson, at least on paper. I can't state it as fact, but I can say, at least on paper, it sure looks like that. I mean, it looks like that to me. So let's go to the connection between Andrew Kovette and Charlie. This is Candace, once again, taking us through a curious incident, a very curious incident that took place with Donald Trump.
I do want to comment and share something that I hadn't shared before. And I don't know if it means something, but it's something that has always lived inside of me, which was something that Charlie Kirk told me before he passed, and something that Andrew Kovette confirmed to me. This is again when everybody was good, and obviously things are not the same between me and Andrew Kovette, because I don't believe him. I just don't believe him. But before it was announced that Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million, this was, I think it was announced in July or just before July of 2024. And I was told by Charlie that he and Andrew Kovette were present for that meeting with Donald Trump. And the reason Charlie told me the story, and again, I could go back and try to figure out when exactly this discussion happened. I want to say it was May. So I knew that that money went through, and I knew what she wanted in exchange for $100 million. What Charlie and Andrew Kovette told me was that she said that she wanted in exchange for Trump to allow them to annex not Gaza, but the West Bank. I was stunned by this. I think it has since made the news. But of course, this is like a totally different pretense on October 7th. Hamas is not in the West Bank, and that is what she wanted in exchange. After she said this to Trump, Trump went wherever Charlie was. Trump was adjusting his tie and looking in the mirror, and he said, "I'm going to take her money, and then I'll F her over." I am hearing this from Charlie, who's there first person, and Andrew, who confirmed this. Andrew was also there. That nobody else was there but Andrew and Charlie when Trump said this. A few weeks later, there was the Butler attempted assassination. And I find it very strange that Donald Trump is not interested. He appeared to be completely disinterested in determining who fired that shot.
I'm a little intrigued by that as well. But for this purpose, I'm more intrigued by that story. Because when I heard her tell that story, I was unaware of the reported, admittedly, I can't sit here and state beyond a reasonable doubt or a statement of fact that Andrew actually did work for the Adelsons, but on paper, it sure looks like it. That's the only Friends of Zion I could find that had the Jerusalem prayer team, that had the same director. Like it looks like it's the same people. And so if Trump says this, and Andrew had that connection, I doubt Charlie's the one that sold Trump out. I mean, just assuming somebody allowed this to leak back to Miriam Adelson, because it does seem curious that just a few weeks later there was an attack on Donald Trump. It seems like it. Seems to be the connection. And I was stunned by it. Again, Travis at Milo X on X was the first one to put the 990 together. The show. I think it is. Pretty sure it is. And then you have Donald Trump not knowing of this connection with Andrew, saying, "Yeah, we took $100 million from this woman. She wants to annex the West Bank. We're not going to let her, but I'm going to take her money."
Hi, baby.
And then 6 weeks later, he gets shot at.
I have a live stream on, just so you know.
And I will say this: if
let me pause this.
To Miriam Adelson, if I'm right that was the right company and that is who he was representing, that's not the kind of connection you give up.
Huh? I'm good, baby. I miss you so much.
I miss you too.
I've been around these nonprofits. I've been around work.
Yeah, that's cool. We just looked at that frosted glass yesterday.
This isn't frosted.
His cup is frosted.
No, this is heavily textured. There's no frosting. It's heavily textured.
Okay, that's what I mean. Whatever. That's exactly the same set we saw yesterday. It was a punch bowl and a bunch of cups. Yesterday at the garage sale place, we saw a punch bowl with a bunch of cups.
Oh, dude, I saw a set from Marketplace.
You saw what?
I saw a set. It's 33. There's plates and bowls, and it's all Coca-Cola stuff for $15, dude. It's 33 plates.
Ooh.
Bowls. A lot of things for not very much money.
Yeah.
At that price, usually like at the thrift store and stuff, when we find them, they're like $4 a piece. Right?
Yeah, when people know what they got.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened with that lady. $40. Like, yeah, she had no clue that it was worth quite a bit more. Maybe she just didn't.
I don't think she gave a hoot.
My sister wants it out of the way, so I have to sell it.
Yeah.
So,
it's easier to just get rid of it.
She didn't want to sell it.
Yeah.
Clean it and all that. She just wanted somebody to come and pick it up. I got $5.
When I came home today, I couldn't find one of the kittens. I got scared.
I've got quarters we can go cash in, so we may end up going and getting those plates tomorrow. I don't know.
Okay, well, it's dark. It's getting dark, so probably you shouldn't leave today. Okay.
Take quarters to the bank and cash it in.
Where was the kitten?
I don't know where she was, but she came back. Wherever she was just tucked away for a second.
We got burgers that can make you it's so good. On yours, I would just put lettuce. Doing like a toy dog barking. It's like
Look, it's my mom doing that rock.
it does.
Hey, Mom, think toy dog barking. Okay?
I know, I can hear it. Y'all are silly. Oh shit, did I just fill in the wrong place? Yes, I did. Damn it.
I tuned it out. I auto-tuned it out. My brain just tunes it out.
There was a set of 4 of these today. There's a set of 4 of these empty on Marketplace today for $45. Empty. So it had the bottles, but the bottles have nothing in them, no caps. Yours are full. And yeah, the boxes are in way better shape than the ones that are online. So they were asking $45 for theirs, which is about $11.50 a piece per 6-pack. So you can easily get 15 for yours. Much better condition. And the Cokes are full. You could probably get closer to 20 for yours.
Right.
So I got full Cokes. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty cool, man, to see the value of those things when people ask it for.
I wonder what the kittens are up to. I hear metal.
So we stopped at the dollar store to get double A for Elliot.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to get ketchup and mustard at Walmart earlier, so we went on the condiments aisle.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have ketchup and mustard, but they had your phone is dying. Plug your phone in. Got the alert. No, the alert just now came through.
It's not even at 10% yet. That's funny you got the alert. I love that Life 360. I love being able to GPS track each other. So what is it called?
They had Taco Bell mild sauce in glass bottles at the dollar store.
Yeah, duh. You can get it at Walmart too. I have tried to tell you. That's why you don't have to keep all that garbage in your refrigerator. That's why I threw it all away. It's because you could just go buy a jar of it if you wanted. It's a little different. It's not exactly the same. But it's better. It tastes better. Tastes fresher. Because it's coming out of a glass jar. My tablet died? No, okay. Every time you say the Coke around the world or whatever, I think of that song, Hands Across America. You don't remember that Hands Across America? It was like kind of like uniting the people. It was some commercial from the 90s, some kind of send me your money. We are the world type shit. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. And that's trust if we you can make a brighter day. Something, I can't remember the rest now. No, I'm singing to myself. What do you want?
We paid for, or I paid for the printout from the bowling alley the other day with the $50.
Yeah.
And Elliot's been asking.
Oh, I know. It came back to him.
So we went and he gave it back to him.
Yeah, I was there.
So the printout was free. Which they do that all the
and I told Elliot, he kept trying to give that money away, and I was like, Elliot, that thing came back to you for a reason. You're supposed to keep it.
And so I found out the other day, so the owner is the guy that always rings us up. One of the other guys rang us up. His name is Jim. And I was like, yeah, 3 games. He's like, yeah, you got your shoes and everything, blah, blah, blah. He's like, all right, $21.50. Does that sound right?
What?
I was like, well, it's usually $16.50. He was like, oh, okay. He's like, that means Jared gives you a flat rate. So he's giving us like the bowler, like we're league bowlers.
Well, you are a team member.
No, we're not leagues.
Elliot is on a league, Josh. He gets league price.
The league is over. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. He's still in the computer.
It does matter.
It doesn't. Especially because he's the owner, it doesn't matter. Trust me, he's the one who decides it doesn't matter.
They very specifically said no when the league is going. It's the only.
Yeah, I'm sure it's in the rule book, but the owner can do whatever he wants, so he's gonna do. Anyways, Elliot, everyone loves Elliot, so.
He gives us like $4 off, $5 off each time we go 3 games. Jared's giving us $5 off. I didn't.
You're a sweetheart.
4.
So anyways, yeah, they get $5 off.
All right, let me get off the phone. I'm live streaming. Well, I did in the very beginning. Yes, I did. I said it twice, actually, because I wanted to make sure you heard me. I know. That's why I want to hang up. I love you. Bye.
Working
I
with
hope that
rich
all of you
people,
guys,
some
when
of
you
them
have
very wealthy
children,
people.
that you actually that
You
you
don't
are able
just
to
walk
have
away and never
a
talk to them. Like,
relationship
that's a
like my
connection you
ex-husband
don't
and I have with one
shallow.
another.
Particularly when they have
Oh,
that.
thanks,
We're
S.
not
Short.
talking
I
about
think you
somebody
said
with
that the
$50
other
million.
day.
We're not talking about someone with $500 million. We're talking about someone with basically unlimited money. Billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. That's not something you give up.
We're real people around these your parts.
And if you think you can curry
We have
favor,
hobbies, and we don't only like put our sexuality on the internet to try to
imagine
make
the
money.
favor Andrew Kovette would have curried. Just thinking outside the box here, just thought experiment. This is not. I'm not saying this happened, but imagine the favor that Andrew Kovette would curry with the Adelson family if he would have gone to them with the story. It would be incalculable. And if he convinced Charlie also to go with that story, the downstream revenue effects could be basically unlimited. For TPUSA, for Andrew, for Charlie, there could be business opportunities, side deals. There could be, I mean, these people have so much money that you can't even describe it. Like, imagine you had $50,000 and somebody needed $10. You'd be like, yeah, here's $10, whatever. That's the kind of money we're talking about. When we're talking about somebody potentially giving TPUSA $10 million or $100 million or more, that's like $10, $20 to these people, maybe $100. Like, you had $50,000 and you could have tremendous impact on American foreign policy, American economic policy for $100. You give $100 to sick. That's the kind of money we're talking. And so I look at this. I want you to keep in mind what we looked at with Andrew's LinkedIn profile. I'll go back to it just so we can all keep it in mind, because I'm about to go into something pretty deep here, and I want you to understand why I'm doing it. We go back to his profile here. There's this gap from October 12 to May 14. It's a 10-month or a 20 month or so gap where he's nowhere to be found on LinkedIn. And then when he shows back up, he's working for Mark Burnett. He only works there a little over a year. He works there with Johnny Moore, and then he and Johnny Moore end up working at Johnny Moore's company, the Kairos. And it's the Kairos company where he's working with the Blaze, PragerU, and apparently Miriam Adelson. Keep that combo in mind as I go through this next little story here. Because there's been a really interesting, fascinating cultural phenomenon that's taken place since Charlie Kirk passed away. In that there is an all-out war on Jimmy Kimmel. Twice now, we've seen them try to take Jimmy Kimmel's career away from him. And I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of people who try to take someone's career away because of something they've said. Not something he did, something he said. Now, Jimmy Kimmel falsely attributed, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, he falsely attributed that to Donald Trump supporters, some right-wing MAGA person. Should you lose your career over a mistake in reporting? No, clearly not. He's a comedian. He was doing a late night bit to an audience of maybe 1 million people, 2 million tops. I mean, how many people watch these late night shows? And it didn't land. But he goes out there, Dave Chappelle, Theo Vaughn, they will go out and work smaller rooms of 200 to 500, maybe a couple thousand people. They will work these rooms for months, sometimes years, to perfect a 60-minute comedy special. And then they'll go on HBO, or they'll go on Showtime, or they'll go on pay-per-view, or they'll go on Netflix, and they'll do their 60-minute bit. Jimmy Kimmel has to come up with a show every night, 5 nights a week.
He has writers.
You're not all those jokes aren't going to land. I've been to some of these shows. I went to a Theo Vaughn show that I was fairly confident he was working out new material, because the first half just slayed. I mean, he just crushed it. And it was hilarious. And I could not stop laughing. I had like a stitch in my side. I was laughing so hard. My wife and I, at one point, were looking at each other. Neither one of us, you could see our eyes. They're just like, we're so swollen from laughing so much. And then he gets to the point where you see he's struggling to work through new material, and he's trying multiple punchlines, and he's telling stories, trying to see what lands and doesn't land, reading the room. You can see him looking at notes. Like, he's coming up with a new joke. You can see it in real time. It was a master at the top of his craft in his prime. You're watching him work. This is how the greatest comedian, or one of the top 5 comedians of his generation, comes up with new material. I'm watching it in real time. It was a special moment. It was at the Ryman Auditorium a year or two ago. It was a beautiful moment. So why would you go so hard after Jimmy Kimmel just because he made a bad joke? And then he did it again this week. So they went after him. He was taken from TV for a little while, and he was pushed to the side, and then he got back on air, and he's been a good boy for the last 6 months. And then a week or two ago, he made another joke about Melania. He said Melania was glowing like an expectant widow, not an expectant mother. You know, they have a glow, but an expectant widow.
That's kind of funny, actually.
Obviously a bad joke. No, but you should never joke
about jokes. It's actually kind of funny. That's the funniest.
I don't find it funny, whether I like the president or not. I do not want them harmed.
Well, it's obviously we don't want no violence, but the joke is still funny because Erica Kirk,
not in a free society,
has that glowing new widow, expectant new widow glow.
So it was a bad joke, but you take his career over.
It's not a bad joke.
Let me go back to something.
Kind of the only funny joke he's ever made.
Identified the source of Jimmy Kimmel hate. Believe it or not.
Was it Jimmy Kimmel that was on the Man Show?
I've been marinating on this for months now. And it wasn't until this recent go round and my deep dive into Andrew Kovette that I think I spotted the problem. And I don't even know if Jimmy Kimmel knows what the problem is. But it makes sense to me that this minute 13-second clip I'm about to play you might be why his career is in jeopardy. This goes all the way back.
All right.
What year was this? This was 9 years ago, 2016, during the Donald Trump campaign the first time. During the first Donald Trump campaign, Jimmy Kimmel is speaking at an award show, and he makes the following joke.
But television can also tear us apart. I mean, if it wasn't for television, would Donald Trump be running for president? No. He would be at home right now, quietly rubbing up against his wife, Malaria, while she pretends to be asleep. Many have asked, who is to blame for Donald Trump?
Okay, let me look at these clips.
The Donald Trump phenomenon.
And I'll say this. He was right. A lot of people in the 2016 election, some of you may not have followed politics very closely back then, or some of you may not have followed Donald Trump very closely back then.
Do I have
This was after Donald Trump was the known Republican nominee. This was 2 months before the election.
Was the right color. Okay.
And a lot of really wealthy entertainment types were trying to figure out, how did Donald Trump survive and do the impossible? How was he able to pull off a win against the billions and billions and billions of dollars in free advertising against him, free attacks against him? Every media outlet, 70, 80, 90, 95% of their coverage against Donald Trump was negative. Every athlete, every entertainer, every academician.
It's funny because the Jewish lobby ran both sides, in favor of Trump and against Trump in the media.
The nomination
both times when he was running. They were the ones.
And a lot of people were asking this question.
The Jewish lobby in the United States, they're the ones who own the pornography industry. Do you know that? That a rabbi owns Pornhub?
He's sitting right there. That's right.
So
that guy.
It's crazy to think about.
That guy is Mark Burnett, Andrew Kovette's boss, right before this was taken. This is the guy who launched Andrew Kovette's career.
Mark Burnett, the man who brought us Celebrity Apprentice. Thanks to Mark Burnett, we don't have to watch reality.
So Theo Vaughn works for Mark Burnett?
Thank you, Mark.
Didn't Theo Vaughn do one of those
That's a
Amazing
forced
Race
smile.
shows?
That's a forced smile. I want to go back to Jimmy Kimmel's face when he tells the joke. I want you to see that. Does he look like he's kidding? Does Jimmy Kimmel look like he's joking?
Right there.
That's the man right there. Does Jimmy Kimmel look like he's remotely joking? Jimmy Kimmel is serious right now. Serious as a heart attack. You want to know where Donald Trump came from? It's that SOB right there. Mark Burnett humanized the new Hitler. He's the one who did this. Donald Trump's career was on the ropes. He had bankruptcies. He had business failures. He had scandals. He had personal flaws. He had, 5 children by 3 wives. That was the guy who would never be president, ever be president. And you son of a biscuit eater, you, Mark Burnett, made him look lovable. You put him on
How?
for 9 or 10 straight seasons.
He
You
didn't look
guys
lovable
made
at all on
hundreds of
the
millions of
Apprentice.
dollars together.
He seemed like a mean person.
Everybody loved him. No, I'm not.
Do you
bashing
sell
Trump
this
right now.
in
What I'm
Hills
doing
Have
is
ice
pointing
cream? So
out why Jimmy Kimmel was furious. Jimmy Kimmel was not the only one furious at this moment. But Jimmy Kimmel was the only one who correctly identified how Trump was able to survive. How he was able to survive. Because prior to 2016, 100% of the time, the media could destroy anyone they wanted. If the media decided look what they did to Ron Paul. Look what they did to Ross Perot. Look what they did to George Wallace. Look what they did to David Duke. Anybody they did not like. And some of these people were unlikable. Some of these people had personal flaws. Donald Trump had personal flaws. And what they would do is they would seize on those personal flaws, whether it was a political belief, whether it was something in their personal life, whatever it was, the media could get together, they could collaborate, and they could make sure that person had no real power. They would not be able to survive the media onslaught. That look on Jimmy Kimmel's face right there is a genuine, sincere disgust for Mark Burnett. And what he did was, in this moment, he told the whole world, that's the guy responsible for Donald Trump. I'm sure Mark Burnett felt that for years. I'm sure he's been stewing on this moment for years. We often talk about how Donald Trump wouldn't have decided to run for president, but for the fact that the last White House Correspondents' Dinner he went to in 2011, before this one this year, the last one he went to was 15 years ago. And Barack Obama made fun of him in front of everybody. And you could see Donald Trump stewing. These people, when they get to this level, their reputation is worth more than money. They have more money than they could spend in 10 lifetimes. Mark Burnett could not go broke if he had to. Mark Burnett could not spend all of his money. If he set out today to try to spend all of his money, he could not spend all of his money. So money is no longer an incentive. It's the adoration of the people. It's all these people in the room. This is an award show for Hollywood. This is where Hollywood gets together and pat each other on the back and tells everybody how great they all are. And Jimmy Kimmel roasted him right in front of everybody. And Mark Burnett has this goofy laugh on his face, which is, I'll kill you, MFer. I will take you out one day. Look at all these people laughing at Mark Burnett's expense. And look how awkwardly he is, how lonely he looks in this moment.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for coming all the way from England to tear us all apart with your intricate plot. It worked. You sneaky little crumpet muncher, you.
You know what it must feel like to be Mark Burnett, have an entire auditorium of the richest and most powerful people in Hollywood laughing at your expense? But he made a comment in there that I thought, I need to follow up on that. What is this came all the way from England business to ruin our lives? Who is Mark Burnett? Who is this guy? Well, let me tell you a little bit about Mark Burnett. I'm not going to pull up a bunch of facts here. I'm just going to run through
Get the sky raising.
Mark Burnett was born in England, 1968, I think, somewhere in there in the 60s. He was born in England. And I may have their year on it. But he's born into a relatively modest family. At the age of 17, he leaves school. He had graduated from, I don't know what they call it in England, basically American version of high school. Leaves high school, graduates. He tries what we call college, I don't know, university or whatever they call it, post-secondary, whatever. But he tries college, doesn't like it, so he enrolls in the military. And he ends up in the very prestigious English military unit, United Kingdom military unit, called the 3rd Battalion Parachute Regiment. These are kind of like our special guys. Not special that way. Not handicap special, but I mean like they're elite. He ends up in the 3rd Battalion Parachute Regiment, where he excels, and he becomes a section commander. While he's there at 5 years. He does tours in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. And he does a tour in the Falkland Islands, where he has a very special role during the war with Argentina. You know, United Kingdom and Argentina went to war now. And while they were at war, there were a lot of prisoners, and those prisoners had to be negotiated and exchanged and everything else. And he was tasked with handling that responsibility. He was a very trusted, very smart tactician. So you think a guy like that has the world at his fingertips. Why is he leaving the military? You know, he seems like he's going to excel in this military game. He's already risen very quickly, but he doesn't. After 5 years, he leaves. And after he leaves the British Army, he wants to move to Central America. He wants to work in weapons and special tactics advisement. What's going on in Central America at the time? The drug trade. The drug trade. The Iran-Contra affair that took place there. So you have the Contras and the Sandinistas. They're already arguing by this time. They're already arguing for supremacy. You already have Manuel Noriega setting up shop in Panama. So anyone going in the early 1980s to Central America to work in weapons and tactics is involved in this life. This is what they're doing. This is the life they want to live. But on his way to Central America, he stops over in Los Angeles. And when he stops in Los Angeles, he decides, I don't want to go excel as a tactician, a strategic advisor, or a weapons guy. No, instead, I'm going to stay in Los Angeles. So you think, well, great, Los Angeles, wonder what he did. I bet it was an amazing job. Well, he became a nanny. That's what he did. There's nothing wrong with nannies. But it's an unusual career path for a guy who was the section commander of the 3rd Battalion Parachute Regiment, who served 5 years in an elite unit in the British military with deployments during the Troubles and the Falkland
obviously
War.
he was babysitting a
prisoner
very
exchanges at a
important
very high level.
person's kid.
That's a very strange career move for somebody who leaves that level of military service and is instead intending to go work in Central America, where the drug trade is active, and we have communists fighting the free world, and we have the battles going on in Nicaragua, and we have what's going on in Panama. It's a very strange career change to give up that entire life up to go be a nanny in Beverly Hills. But that's what Mark Burnett did. This is the same Mark Burnett they were just laughing at. Then he became a housekeeper in Malibu. A nanny in Beverly
he might
Hills.
not have been able to get a visa to do anything else for a while.
This is an elite special operator. This is a guy who was going to make a career out of advising guerrilla groups, Western governments, on how to fight communists in the Western Hemisphere, how to get weapons in and out of the area. And he's a nanny and a housekeeper. Mark Burnett, Celebrity Apprentice. Then he leaves the nannying and housekeeping business, and you think, oh, okay, now he's going to go be a special operator. Now he's going to go into Central America. No, not at all. He moves to Venice Beach, where he opens a T-shirt sales booth on Venice Beach. He sells T-shirts. He gets a bunch of T-shirts printed up and sells them on Venice Beach. That's his career trajectory. Special operator, planning to work in a very high level at a very strange time in Central America. But first, let me go be a housekeeper. Then let me be a nanny. Now let me go sell T-shirts. That is not the career path of most people who end up sitting in front of Jimmy Kimmel being roasted in front of the richest and most powerful people. This is not the career path of a guy who ends up being a business partner with Donald Trump just a few years later. We're talking the 90s this was happening. In 1992, he launched, again, strange career trajectory. He launches something called the Echo Race. This is where people compete for money, racing around the world. Or racing. And he does that for 3 years just behind the scenes, and I have no idea why. But they finally pick it up for television in 1995, and now he's moved his way into Hollywood. Now he's starting to learn the Hollywood business. One wonders why he went from military to strategic advising and weapons, to housekeeping, to nannying, to selling T-shirts, to running a racing league, to working in Hollywood. It's a very strange arc. But in 1995, they pick up this Echo race. And for 5 years, he has a televised race. Until 2000, when he launches what may be the most successful reality television franchise in history, Survivor. That's Mark Burnett. In 2000, he launches Survivor. It has gone on for 45 consecutive seasons. An interesting game in that they go through very strange global locations, isolated places in the middle of nowhere, off the coast, typically on an island. It's a master class in studying group dynamics in real time, manipulation, stress. You're surveilling people for 24 hours at a time. You're telling stories. You're manipulating the environment and through games that you know one group will do better at than the other. Oh, this is the game we're going to play today to shift the thing and see how everybody responds. It's like an intelligence operation. But it's profitable. And you guys love watching it. A lot of you do. And he did that for 4 years. Shit. He's done it for 25 years, but at this point, he'd done it for 4 years when he launches The Apprentice in 2004.
So
that is the rehab of the Donald Trump brand. When I was a kid in the 1980s, Donald Trump was synonymous with success. He was in his 30s. He was young, maybe early 40s. But Donald Trump, if Donald Trump got involved, it was successful. It was big buildings, it was gold signs, it was his name on absolutely everything. But by the time 2004 had run around, Donald Trump had been through the ringer. He was in not ideal shape. And in 2004, they launched The Apprentice, and at first it was poorly received because it was Donald Trump, and he kind of was having some real image issues. But within a year or two, people loved the show. And I'll admit, I watched it. It was a great show. It was very entertaining. And Trump was magnetic on camera. He was
entertaining at all.
Somebody you just wanted to tune in the next week to see who he fired.
Not really, no.
And you felt like you were learning
Never
something
felt
about
like
business, about life, about relationships. I mean, it was a really cool program. It was a really cool show. And through Apprentice and later Celebrity Apprentice, Donald Trump and Mark Burnett became close. They had a close personal relationship, a close business relationship. They made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe more, off of this 50-50 partnership they had in The Apprentice. At one point, Mark Burnett's son was the ring bearer in Donald Trump's wedding to Melania. Now, flash forward to 2016, where Jimmy Kimmel's on stage roasting Mark Burnett, and before he roasted Mark Burnett, he roasted Donald Trump's wife by calling her malaria. But it really helps shape the perception of Donald Trump. Along the way, Mark Burnett, this very strange career arc, who's now worth hundreds of millions of dollars, marries a woman named Roma Downey. Roma Downey was an actress. She was an actress.
She's the angel.
She was an actress in a show called Touched by an Angel. So this was a Christian themed show. Then after that, she started being a producer of Christian television. She and Mark Burnett together produced something called The Bible for television. And then what they would do is they'd tell Old Testament stories, New Testament stories, and they would tell the story.
I'll turn the fan on. Okay.
Bible characters, and it just jumped off the page. It came to life. It was beautiful. Okay. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was wonderful. It was a good, well-produced,
eyes before.
Great idea. And it was very commercial.
Did all that. I need to
color
other this
Christian shows, but not as successful as the Bible.
Purple, but I don't have a purple.
She acted in nothing as successful as Touched by an Angel, but they had this relationship. And this is the life Mark Burnett is leading when he gets on the crowd. And Jimmy Kimmel starts roasting it.
Take a look at what it looks like right now.
This is where Mark Burnett is when all this takes place. And you can imagine what Mark Burnett thought of Jimmy Kimmel in that moment. In 2024, when Donald Trump wins his second term, he actually appoints Mark Burnett to a very important role. He's the special envoy to the United Kingdom.
All right. And
That's
then
a
once
job
I
you
do,
hold until 10 days before
that light brown shows up really nicely. So I'm gonna do the light brown.
connection to those dates or not. It leaves at the end of August 2020. But if you look at the trajectory of Mark Burnett's career, it aligns with patterns we see in long-term embedded intelligence assets. Oh, we could use you in Central America, Mr. Guy we've developed through the media, through the military. That would be great. But might you be more valuable over here by getting to develop a close relationship with somebody? We'll make you their housekeeper, and you can get to know that person.
What's up, mommy?
This is the career trajectory of an embedded asset who then is transitioning between an operational asset and then becoming a cultural asset and then even entering the diplomatic sphere. Somebody who's touching all areas of what's necessary at any given
I
moment.
wonder if Roma Downey's show, Touched by an Angel, like, you know.
JE files.
Get off my computer!
One example of Mark Burnett where he shows up in the famed files here. Let me make this a little bigger for you. If you follow along with me don't worry about this up here. This is just this woman forwarding this to Jeffrey of the JE Files fame. But here is the email from Mark Burnett to this woman named Sarah.
Do the light,
They blurred her out, but I'll tell you who she is. Sarah, I will be very glad to find you a place on the Celebrity Apprentice. The more I think about it, the more sense it makes for you. Oh, this Sarah must be a very important person. We'll find out who she is. You already live in New York. It's for charity, and it rewards fun characters who are smart. You are all of those things, and the promotional value might bring to being on a network television series is highly respected as immeasurable. Then he gives them the dates. The cast flies in on October 13th. It wraps on November the 13th. You can leave if you get done early. Be a great promotion for you. I've CC'd my co-executive producer who will answer any questions. And this is the way I was able to figure out who this is. By the way, I will work with you on developing Duchess for a day, and we can use Celebrity Apprentice as a launch pad to sell that series. Well, Mark Burnett seems very invested in this. Who is she? Who is this mysterious Sarah? She must be quite
Sarah Ferguson, duh.
I can assure you she's not.
The
'Cause I was able
Duchess,
to
Sarah.
figure out who she was.
Takes 2 seconds to figure out
This
who that is.
is, pull it up and make it a little bigger here. This is who Sarah is of the JE Files fame. Oh, not that one. It's a woman named Sarah McLean.
No, it's Sarah Ferguson.
It's this
The Duchess.
sort of
Idiot. I don't know if I can listen to your show.
like a normal 5, just a normal
sorry,
gal,
Mama.
not the type of people you saw dotting the Celebrity Apprentice. Those typically were very amazing looking people. I watched the pre-season. They were like supermodels. She would have stood out. New York Times, Washington Post, and USA Today bestseller Sarah McLean is the author of historical romance novels. Huh? This is the woman we want to put on. A, she's not a celebrity. B, she writes trashy romance novels. I looked them up. It's just like mom porn. It's up. Now we're gonna get deep. I said corn, YouTube. Corn, C-O-R-N. Mom corn. That's all she writes. You look at the covers of these books, you know exactly what they're about the second you see the cover. So you got this kind of, I'm not being mean, but this like frumpy, normal-looking gal who writes trashy romance novels, and we're going to put her on the Celebrity Apprentice? Why? Well, maybe if we go to Wikipedia, we can find out. Is there anything about this girl's past that would land her on Mark Burnett's radar and might give us a clue as to why Mark Burnett was able to fashion himself into some sort of a icon? Here's Sarah McLean. She is a New York Times best-selling American author of young adult novels and romance novel. Okay, first adult romance novel, 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake. Oh, that sounds great. I mean, doesn't particularly appear on her face as somebody who would be on Celebrity Apprentice. Well, let's go to her bio. Anything in her bio? She's born in Lincoln, Rhode Island. Okay. Italian father, British mother. Nothing weird there. Oh, the website reports her mother worked for MI6. Oh. Her mother was British intelligence. Mark Burnett excelled through the British military. Mark left and went into what many of us would consider an intelligence field, or wanted to, in Central America, but then was diverted into housekeeping. Oh, that's weird. So we have this highly trained special operator who is going to be moving to Central America, where the CIA, MI6, all the Western intelligence agencies were trying to kick the Soviets off the continent. And you had the Sandinistas, who were the Soviet satellite state trying to be founded. And you had the Contras and all these other groups that were fighting the Sandinistas. And so you had all these intelligence operators moving to Central America. And that's where Mark Burnett wanted to move. But he got diverted when he went to LA and ended up as a housekeeper and a nanny. Here, kids, here's your new nanny. He was a Green Beret last year. That's kind of weird.
Might keep the kids safe.
Like, I like Nate. I don't want him as a nanny to my kids. Valhalla. Keep podcasting. I don't want you to nanny. I don't want Joe Kent nannying. Like, Green Berets don't need a nannying. But for some reason, somebody thought an operator at this high level needs to get into the nanny business and the housekeeping business and the t-shirt sales business, almost as if they're trying to spend some time in LA getting him acclimated. And I think that exchange in the JE files is just one piece of evidence. And if you look through the rest of it, if you search his name in the files, you'll see several things where you go, looks like he might be into it. That was one of them that jumped off the page to me. He's doing a favor for someone who does not belong on Celebrity Apprentice by putting her on Celebrity Apprentice. And her mom just happened to be MI6. And it wasn't like she was secret MI6. The girl is trading on the fact that her mom was MI6 by putting it on her website. So it's in the context of all of this that Andrew Kovette ends up working for
Elizabeth.
So does Johnny Moore. And they leave. The same guy we've just talked about, they end up leaving him to go open their own shop.
There you go.
And their clients, the only ones he can name by name when he's talking to the New York Times, are PragerU and the Blaze. Greatest ally fans. Okay. Now I think I see what's going on here, Andrew Kovette. It's starting to make more sense. Now it makes more sense why you guys were just tracking Charlie Kirk and why there was all of a sudden this impossible position Charlie Kirk was put in, where internal text messages from a woman who was very close to Charlie Kirk, probably the closest person that worked was this Crystal woman, the closest person at TPUSA to Charlie Kirk at the time. He called her the de facto COO, a role that would be held months later by Tyler Boyer. And she gets run out on a rail. And the media's relentless, and they're trashing Charlie Kirk, and they're trashing TPUSA, and Charlie Kirk's at risk of losing all of his momentum that he's built through the first 5 to 6 years of this organization being up and running. And that's when, in a fit of desperation, he reaches out to Mark Burnett's former employee. Interesting. Interesting times. And it's that former Mark Burnett employee,
Money Elizabeth,
who about the same time all this is going on with Charlie Kirk. Is going on with Charlie Kirk.
She got off of it.
And he's reaching out to Andrew Kovette.
So frustrating when this shit falls out.
About this same time that Erica Kirk shows up on the scene.
I'm not using this channel as a political channel.
But we've got to put this all in context. We've got to put this all in the context. When you read a tweet like this,
because I'm listening to something, that means I'm promoting it to you? No.
After Andrew Kovette's shown up on the scene,
listening to it the same time you are. Have no.
After Andrew Kovette has de facto taken over the communication operations at TPUSA.
You don't have to listen to something, and that means you agree with it.
And then we see a tweet like this in April of this year. Charlie Kirk. April 3, 2025. Just 5 months and a week before he'll be taken off this earth. It's going unnoticed because so much other news is happening, but the war drums are beating again in D.C. The warmongers worry this is their last chance to get the white whale they've been chasing for 30 years, an all-out regime change war against Iran. A new Middle East war would be a catastrophic mistake. Our military stockpiles are depleted from 3 years of backing Ukraine. Our effort to reshore manufacturing has only just begun. It will take years to bear fruit. We would worsen our already immense deficit, national debt. Iran is larger than Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan combined. A war would not be easy and could easily become a calamity. Thanks to President Trump's restraint during his first term, America has a golden opportunity to pull away from Middle Eastern quagmires for good. Everybody likes to focus on this first paragraph. I like to focus on the last part. We shouldn't throw that opportunity away that some DC has-beens can feel tough by sending young Americans to die yet again. Charlie Kirk, 5 months and 1 week before he would be erased from the human record. What do we know about who was backing this Iran war that Charlie Kirk was very harshly criticized? Who do we know who was backing this war? Tucker Carlson gave us the answer just this week. Tucker Carlson claims billionaires Rupert Murdoch, Miriam Adelson pushed Trump into war with Iran. Hannity and Levin denied Carlson's allegation to the New York Times, while Murdoch and Adelson did not respond. I get it. Andrew Kovette worked for a guy whose career sure looked like an intelligence operation continuing, who's very powerful. So powerful that when somebody slights him in 2016, that guy gets fired not once, but maybe twice. 9 years later, 10 years later. Somebody who's very close to the president, somebody who's very close to Miriam Adelson. Andrew Kovette then leaves that special operator's employ to go out with Johnny Moore, who we'll talk about later. He deserves his own show. Because this story I'm telling you tonight will make a lot more sense when I give you that point. I'm not going to do it another time. But Andrew Kovette leaves a guy, Mark Burnett, who looks like a long-term intel operation. And he goes to work for Johnny Moore, who also left Mark Burnett, what appears to be a long-term intel operator. They immediately go out and get 2 named clients that they're willing to name, PragerU and The Blaze. Huge fans of our great player. They pick up a 3rd client, Friends of Zion, the Jerusalem prayer team. We now know the Friends of Zion might have been just the Adelsons. We know that the Adelsons gave Donald Trump $100 million, and Donald Trump said, I'm going to F her over. I believe that's accurate. I take Candace's word on that, but it seems right. I've not heard Andrew come out and say that didn't happen. I've not heard Erica come out and say Candace didn't tell her that story, so I tend to believe it happened. And then in the midst of all this, Charlie gets all uppity and decides he doesn't want to go to war. Oh, that's not an option you get, sir. No. We've got entirely too much invested in this war with Iran. This is a multi-trillion-dollar operation. You think the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan netted trillions of dollars? Just wait. If you could clear Iran off the map, you could take Lebanon. They've already taken Syria. Take Lebanon off the map. They've taken Libya off the map. Jordan's next, obviously. Turkey. You create a non-Arab.
The guy who I'm listening to is not MAGA,
European style
and neither am I.
governance in
Just
the
so you guys
entire
are
Middle
aware.
East, from basically Tunisia
The people he's calling out
to
claims to
Pakistan,
be MAGA.
or at least Afghanistan,
So
from Greece
there's that.
to Saudi Arabia, maybe even through Saudi Arabia, maybe to the sea. The economic consequences of that are not negligible. I don't even think you could measure them in the trillions. I mean, this could be hundreds of trillions. This could be thousands of trillions, like quadrillions of dollars long term. And Charlie was verbal against it. Showing up in the White House? Are you kidding me? Showing up in the White House to argue against this, then taking to Twitter to argue against it? I mean, just in terms of what they've done in Gaza, they think they're going to potentially get $1 trillion in that. All that beachfront property, all that access to fresh water, ports, and all that. I mean, you're talking potentially $1 trillion of dollars. Now do the West Bank. Now do Iran, Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan. Guys, that's what Charlie Kirk was fighting. That's what he was against. And these were the people on the other side. They worked at TPUSA. They got into TPUSA. That's my opinion, based on all of this.
People are going to be really shocked when they find out that Charlie Kirk was actually in on all of the fucking, like, people are like holding him to this, like,
Very
he had no idea.
Candace Owens made
I
that
don't
has
know
never
about
been
that.
completely-
He might have been fighting back, but he knew about it. He wouldn't have made it as long as he did and gotten as high as he did if he didn't know.
In the Hamptons, and he had more than one event, but he had essentially what was staged, an intervention was staged by Bill Ackman. Because Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel were a no-no. This is not the route that you should be going on. And Charlie was surrounded by his friends, quote-unquote friends. Bill Ackman was very upset, and threats were made. I am told, and I will tell you that I am very happy for Bill Ackman to dispute this narrative. In fact, he was asked to dispute this narrative. Max Blumenthal went out to him today, and Bill Ackman came back and said, I have receipts I can show you. And he did not provide the receipts. But this is not how it went down. I know it went down this way. I'm waiting for one of them to go on record and to say that it didn't go down this way. It was at this time that Bibi Netanyahu was called, and Charlie was invited to Israel. This was an under duress situation, I would say, because I've been in these situations before. When I started asking very sensible questions about Israel, as someone who had dedicated her political life to supporting Israel, many times alongside Charlie Kirk, I was met with the very same pressure. And just like Charlie was being invited to Israel, I was invited somewhere else. And when this arrived to me, it felt like a threat. You know, I gotta think, it felt like a threat. Like, not like, hey, come here and we can educate you because you're my friend. More like, this is your last chance. I can't speak to Charlie. And I know that Charlie was offered a ton of money in this moment.
Who's been throwing around a ton of money that we've talked about? Because one of the things that Candace has been struggling with is, where would the money have come from? Who's been throwing around a ton of money? I can't answer that definitively, but I talked about people tonight who throw around a ton of money to get people on board with the foreign policy objectives of our greatest ally in the Middle East. Hundreds of millions of dollars out of whack. And for an organization like Turning Point, you're talking that kind of money. lots and lots of money. Now, can I say definitively that William Adelson or Bill Ackman or one of these people was willing to pay Charlie off basically to shut up and get out of the way? No, you can't say it. It's consistent with everything we've talked about. It's consistent with everything we talked about. I just want to know who killed Charlie Kirk. I find it nearly impossible, while examining all of this data, all the things that were going on, not just the last 6 months of Charlie's life, but the last 10 years of Charlie's life. I find it nearly impossible to believe none of that was connected to his demise. And it just happened to be some weirdo from St. George, Utah, who heard Charlie Kirk was going to be in town, happened to crawl up to just the right spot and took a shot of a lifetime. Single shot of a lifetime. And then stupidly confessed every detail to anyone who was. I have a hard time believing it. Maybe that's true. Maybe the trial will get here and we'll find out. You know, Baron, you misread this. I don't think I have. I don't think Tyler Robinson planned all this by himself. I think all this had something to do with it. Everything we've talked about. It all led up to the fact that Charlie was alive and then he wasn't. In my opinion, that's just, to me, that's an inescapable conclusion at this point. The more I look into it, the more convinced I am that all of the things Charlie had going on around him contributed to his death, including these meetings, including the money, including the this and that, and the intel connections and operator connections, and our only clients are pro greatest ally. And when we get to Johnny Moore, maybe it'll make more sense. Because if you look at Johnny Moore's clients, some of his recent clients, holy mackerel. But if you want a practical non-Charlie Kirk related lesson.
Sissy, thank you so much. I love you so much. You're so sweet.
In the wake of the frankly tragic situation,
the owl is coming out pretty good. I'm scared, a little bit nervous because it's for a really big a woman with a really big account, and I'm just nervous that it's gonna come out like shit.
So it's tragic.
It's way out of my comfort zone.
People could have lost their life, and that would be an. And in the wake of that, there was a psychological operation led by somebody with the pool.
It's like dark.
And executed a psychological operation like that.
Let me turn my brightness up. Maybe that'll help me.
This is just my first night of training. There will be. There will be.
Can you see the V's?
This aspect.
Yes, you can. Yes.
How Mark Burnett connected to Johnny Moore.
Let's get to
Johnny Moore and Kovette connected to Rated by Triple Zionism. How that connected.
Dude, if anybody wants to donate $30, or if anyone wants to buy a rug for $30, please let me know. I actually really need $30 right now for my kiddo, and
then lost his life about the same time.
I don't have the money to do the thing for him. So
everybody likes to say, "Oh, you guys just say stuff, making stuff up. You just want to trash TPUSA. You just want to trash Terry Bear."
So
no.
Someone should buy a rug from me.
Oh my! I want to know who killed Charlie Kirk, and there was a lot going on here. That
all right, now we're gonna do
Why are we so fixated on this weirdo from St. George, Utah?
We're gonna do
all of this other stuff is going on around. When you want the evidence that it's connected, in my opinion, look at TPUSA after the fact. Charlie Kirk, for 6 months, was pretty adamant. I don't want to go to war with Iran, period, in the story. It'd be negative for the United States. It would absolutely have consequences. I'm willing to give up money over it. I'm willing to take a hit to my reputation over it. I'm willing to give up access to sources. I'm willing to give up access to parties and all this other stuff. I'm going to bring on Candace Owens. I'm going to bring on Tucker Carlson. I'm going to bring on Dave Smith. I'm going to bring on Megyn Kelly because these people don't want the war either. And I want to give them a platform. I want to make them big as possible. I want that position to win the day. That's when he died. That's when he died. It was in the midst of that when he died. That is the story of Charlie Kirk's demise. It would be the single
Keeps
most
yelling. I'm gonna have
convenient,
to turn his channel off.
random
I don't like yelling.
furry lover in history taking out Charlie Kirk on his own, completely planned, because it solved a massive problem that our greatest ally was having. And that was a significant investment of theirs with tens of millions of followers, who was beloved, who had one of the top podcasts in the nation. Not like small.
I need
I mean, like
gloves.
right now, they'll have 200 people.
I need
Like,
gloves.
ruin.
How much
Ruin.
for a rug that looks like your cat?
Like a million
So
people.
in total, I
Millions.
would say, probably for a portrait,
Would go
50
out
bucks.
and speak, and thousands of people
And that's
would line
because
up
it will
to see
take
him
me a
anyway.
while
Standing
to
in
draw.
90-degree
Hold on
weather.
a
The
second.
day he died, it was 90 degrees.
Trying to get to the screen.
People lined up so far they could barely see.
Hello, Bueller. Okay. Yeah, $50 because I will have to spend the time to draw the cat. I'll have to take a photo. So what you have to do though is I'm gonna need a really clear, high definition photo of your cat. And what I can do is I wouldn't trust myself to do like a super intricate body, but I could do your cat's whole face. Like, you know, for 50, I think I could do probably 1 foot by 2 foot, or maybe 2 foot by 2 foot, depending on what I can get more details if I make it bigger. So if you find my Instagram, okay, hold on a second. Let me, my Instagram, or my, do you do Cash App or Venmo? Do you have me on Instagram, Doug? It's Rugged Tuft, the same as it is here. Can you message me on Instagram so then I can just send it to you private message instead of like posting it publicly so that it doesn't take up everyone's screen? DM me on Instagram if you want to order a rug. Yes. As long as I'm allowed to make it on a live stream and it's not going to be anything sexual, I can do it. Okay, do that right now. And I will get it going. It'll come, I'll make it basically in my next round of rugs. And that will be really amazing. I need $30 really bad, so that is perfect. But I obviously don't need it like right this second tonight. So, but I do need it by tomorrow morning. So, I'll get back to you after I'm done with the live stream. I will check my Instagram. My hands are so sore. Okay. Also, Doug, I am still new at this. And so I'm really good at making the rugs, putting down the yarn and doing the artistry. But I am still learning how to finish the rugs and like perfect them, you know, like how it looks in the back, like professional, like you can't see seams and stuff. So just the back of the rug is nobody's business until I'm a little bit better. Okay. That's what I've been telling everybody. Lowered expectations. I just got a message. My muscles are sore. I got your message. Yes, it's meant for the wall. And also, I will give you a coupon in your package when I mail it. You'll have like a physical coupon. It'll probably be handwritten or whatever, but it'll be something that I'll be able to remember when I see it, you know? But I'll give you a coupon for another rug in the future once I've mastered the finishing and my rug prices go up to like, you know, the quality or whatever. You can use the coupon to get a rug for the same price at the better quality, you know, but the same price that you paid originally. You'll get like a coupon for that. So that's something as a thank you from me. Also, I have a few rugs here that need to be shipped out, but I'm waiting because I need to get a printer. I apparently need to get sublimation ink, but I found out that I can get sublimation markers. So I'm going to get sublimation markers. I've got sublimation paper, and then I'm going to just hand write labels for the backs of each of those rugs. So the rug will get sent out once I get that situated. I already have the sublimation machine. I already have the paper. I just have to order the markers, but I'm sure I can get it in like 24 to 48 hours once I have the money. But I have to wait till after work tomorrow to be able to order the markers. Oh yeah. This guy's kind of
On a random Wednesday.
I kind of am over it.
Dude.
Really, my muscles are sore. All right, let's watch it. Say
Is the very last word in fashion print media, at least alphabetically, and they have the legacy to prove it. From its humble, nonchalant days to its omnipresence today, Vogue has stayed in vogue for 134 years plus. But while it survived, its popularity
Instagram messages from you guys.
thrived. These are the books. I know it looks ridiculous, but this is the third year of research for this ongoing series. Here are the other two videos, and the Condé Nast one is criminally underviewed, so I do highly recommend you watch it after this one. This is also by far the shorter version of this story. I cannot edit a 2-hour video with all of the visuals. I'd go literally mad, so it's audio only and available now for patrons and channel members. When Arthur B. Turner was 35 years old, working at Harper's & Brothers, publishers of Harper's Bazaar, he told his friend Harry McVicker that he wanted to start his own magazine, made by and intended for New York's high society, i.e. themselves and their friends on the social register. Turning to their Rolodex of wealthy individuals, together they sourced 250 shareholders and 56 major sponsors comprising of New York's wealthiest individuals to fund their new venture. So, on December 17th, 1892, Vogue was born, named by its very first editor, Josephine Redding. The magazine was published weekly and cost 10 cents a copy or $4 a year for the subscription. At the time, the magazine was received as a uniquely dedicated piece of fashion journalism because it did not only print fashion plates without explanation. No, Vogue featured full fashion illustrations, which usually included the cover were uncredited, complete with unusually devout pieces on ladies' fashion written in both a modest and respectable lens of high-class excellence with just a hint of satire. This is important to note as it came at a time in American history in which America's upper class system had been changing away from the British system based on primogeniture. It newly became possible for people of meager origins to aspire and attain not only wealth, but prestige, leading to an increased desire for the masses to know how to behave in upper class society, regardless of how unrealistic that hope was. This meant that unexpectedly to Turner and McVicker, who were already part of high society themselves, Vogue had a secondary aspirational audience all the way from launch. Quote,
What could be more timely than the appearance of a magazine to reflect their concerns, to report their activities, to set an example and encourage a sense of unity among the leading social figures of New York? Who else could have gotten into the new Vanderbilt house at 5th Avenue and 57th Street and published photographs of its interior? A society snapshot for all of Vogue's friends. However, despite the magazine having great potential and multiple potential customer bases, internally,
hand is
Vogue
like
staff
fucking
was
sore.
small, and the atmosphere around the
Hold on,
office was
this
informal
fucking
and
machine. So she's-
unprofessional. Consisting of mostly upper-class friends, there was this distinct languidness to the environment that largely meant that they were fortunate enough to afford large illustrations, many of which barely annotated, often without description whatsoever. Further, the magazine was also quite scarce of advertisers. Circulation didn't exceed 10,000 at this point, and it was said to be considerably below that anyway. This would be the environment that Edna Warman Chase found herself hired into. Quote, from the very first day, I felt a proprietary interest in the whole organization. I couldn't wait to get there in the morning. I hated to leave at night. I wasn't trying to get on. I was just so interested that I quite naturally found myself putting in my own small oar. As we were staffed by ladies and gentlemen, no one wanted to work very hard, and anybody who wanted extra duties was welcome to them. All kinds of chores came my way, and subconsciously I began to absorb editorial policies and angles on the publishing business. She quickly became the force behind the magazine. While Mrs. Redding did better the company through her connections and ensuring the creme de la creme were within its pages, Edna Woman Chase kept the company running. This brings us to 1899, when a woman named
Feels
Rosa
weird to be in
Payne
the
approached
sand.
Vogue to print a coupon for 50 cents sewing pattern postally received in a size 36 within the magazine. So, in the 23rd of February 1899 edition, the Louis XV coat began a weekly series for the magazine and even started a trend for domestic adverts covering things within the home, advertising Campbell's Soup's newfangled pull-tab lids, the telephone, kitchen appliances, etc., etc. Unfortunately, however, this did also time up with large disagreements within the company. McVicker and Turner, the founders, began to argue over basically anything and everything, and soon Mrs. Redding was fired in the middle of something totally unrelated to her. She'd never been interested in fashion anyway, nor any of the other topics in Vogue, so no one saw this as much of a loss, but McVicker also soon left of his own accord, leaving Turner to publish, make up, and edit the entire publication alone. This directionless running of the magazine would last until 1901, when Turner contacted his sister-in-law, Marie Harrison, to take the reins. Marie Harrison was a very well-liked editor within the Vogue walls. Unlike Redding, she was cheerful, strong, good-looking, and took to Edna Warman Chase to fill in the gaps that she lacked, for example, in her journalistic skills. Additionally, this period became one in which Turner realized that he needed a solid business partner himself to bounce ideas off. This came by the way of a then 19-year-old Tom Macready, who became Vogue's first ever advertising manager. Macready is credited with first capitalizing on Vogue's added value as the only magazine by the upper echelon in print. It was a marketable factor to advertisers, especially as they were coming into the so-called wealth bonanza in America, just not one they capitalized on before. His only trouble, though, was that Vogue had no advertising connections, save for Campbell's Soup et al., and that wasn't exactly the kind of clientele that Macready felt should grace the pages of an upper echelon magazine. He further helped turn the magazine from a social magazine into a shopping guide for upper-class women after he realized that he had more selling power to advertisers that way, and as a result is subsequently credited to Turner that readers would be equally intrigued in flashy adverts as they would in actual journalistic content. He even established the idea of a Vogue voice, so i.e. publishing articles anonymously as to establish that it's the magazine as an entity's point of view, as opposed to a singular person, giving value to Vogue as an authority which could not be poached by another magazine. He was probably the best $25 a week wage that Vogue had on staff entirely. Further to this, under Marie Harrison came one more innovation in Vogue: the utilization of actresses as models. So the earliest one that I personally could find was Mary Nash, who had her first dedicated feature in 1904. But it was also Nash who had the first totally unrelated to her career article when she modeled a series of hats in 1921. Though, of course, that's jumping a bit forward. Actually, it's after Harrison left. So let's go back to the timeline in 1905, when Condé Nast had begun negotiations to buy Vogue away from the founder himself. It was turned down, as we went over in the Condé Nast biography, but then in 1906, in an awful turn of events, the founder Turner suddenly died at the age of 49 from lobar pneumonia. He'd been a chronic gambler in his personal life and had wasted away his entire family fortune, leaving his wife and son only a couple $100, meaning their primary source of income for a very upper class family became only a magazine that wasn't that profitable. Marie Harrison now had a weight on her shoulders that just never existed in company history. Thus, she promoted Edna Woolman Chase to become an official assistant, and they began exploring syndication of Vogue patterns to local newspapers to bring in another stream of income, which seems to have gone quite well considering it supplemented their now 25,000 circulation. Though these next 3 years are described as wobbly by Chase, it was directly attributed to these two women's tenaciousness that Condé Nast then would become re-interested in the magazine, finally buying it outright in 1909, appearing on the pages for the first time in the June 24th edition. His first change came after about 6 months, when he made the magazine into a fortnightly magazine. It was actually a suggestion that came from Edna Woolman Chase after she noticed other magazines would dependably release theirs on Wednesdays every week. Now, Vogue couldn't compete with a weekly, but they could at least be present and new when the potential customers were looking for the other magazine's new prints. Vogue, stylistically and in quality, was better in basically every way, so it was a no-brainer upsell to readers who were coming in to buy a cheaper magazine. So soon, Vogue could even cost 25 cents to readers, maintaining a high readership. However, as he began to notice Chase's talents, the same could not be said of Marie Harrison, who had just kind of existed while all of these really cool innovations at Vogue moved around her. He had inherited her under a contract for 5 years, so he couldn't fire her even if he wanted to. But his official excuse for keeping her uselessly was that she just remained for consistency. But come 1914, Harrison was happily usurped. Edna Woolman Chase had been doing Harrison's job long before she left in 1911, and even longer before she quit in 1913. But the first issue with her name on the masthead was February 1st, 1914. Over the next year, Chase proved that she didn't need pedigree to produce as effectively as Marie Harrison had. In the spring, she had her first major piece when several members of high society emulated fine art. In the summer, she helped the Paris couturiers establish the Syndicat de Défense de la Grande Couture Française, which would later be named the Fédération de la Couture et de la Mode, which you probably know because they still produce Paris Fashion Week today. Then, in the winter, still in her first year, she oversaw the
Lame. Okay, so It's too pink. There's no flashlights. Maybe if I just did. Okay. Well, I'll have to do the darker-ish of the two. That will be good. Should do light color first because that's the outline. The most frustrating part is threading, stringing the daggum machine. Oh, so Doug, are you still in here? I want to tell you something that'll help kind of cut us some time out from messaging back and forth. It disappears so easy. Anyway, if you see this, make sure that you send me a picture of your cat, like a really good clear image, in the same like way that you want the cat to be seen on camera. Okay, what's open and how is there a bug getting in here? How in the hell is bug getting in here? There's no windows open. None of the windows are open. Why is there a bug flying in my friggin' bragging bra? Fine, I'm just chasing bugs down on me. No, it's not time for food. No, food, no. No. I'm not gonna argue. I know. Ooh, dirty rats. The buzz in here, and I'm not happy about it. Shit. I'm gonna have to buy more yarn. I hope I can find a good deal on the bench, or like try to seek refuge. Okay, so while you're back there, you're not gonna catch me punching a fucking needle at 35 miles an hour. Get out of there. Hey, get out of there. Come on. I get your emotional manipulation. Okay, fine. Yeah, we'll get you some food. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Let's get you some food. Get off the computer! Get off the computer! I love you too, Birdie. Oh, Birdie calling me. Hi, baby Birdie. Hi, baby Birdie. Come on, everybody. Too sweet. Oh, the babies are wanting me to love on them. It's a kitten attack. Okay. Oh. Right. So I'm gonna just switch the colors before forward. Oh, you hear my kitten calling me? That's me. I've always been able to make a good kitten sound. Everybody's like, what the fuck? All the kittens. Let's just go from the center because end of this fucking yarn. I have to buy more yarn. Oh my god, I already have to buy more yarn. So that'd be cool though if I get like 10 rugs out of, you know, all that yarn. It's not very much actually. I'm gonna have to charge more for my rugs, I think. Oops, forgot I'm gonna do it this way. She closed out everything. I'm about this. God, yeah. Oh, crap. Oh, come on. There's just like nothing on ever again. sure would be nice if something good came on.
The black neon tetra is one of my favorite schooling nano fish. Watching their electric blue stripes flash through the water as they voraciously nip for food is a joy. While this group has thrived for years in the Crystal Mine Aquarium, I had the itch to create something new for them. An environment with greater biodiversity where I could see them better. My vision for that was a natural-looking, layered sunken cave system, smothered by roots designed to highlight their movement and beauty as they weave through hidden passages. There are a few reasons this all came to be. First, I wanted to dismantle their current home, but why? Well, let's take a closer look. It's been an enjoyable, fairly low maintenance setup to have around, and 3 years later, it's still flourishing. The plant growth from the beginning till now is night and day, or maybe I should say day and night. I can't even remember the last time I trimmed anything. Maybe about 6 months ago. All that matters is it looks wild now, which I quite enjoy. However, failing to prune the riparian plants above the rim has significantly faded the aquatic world. Many of the leaves have browning edges as well, but that's alright. The foliage just doesn't look as good as it would have with maintenance. Even so, the root systems are immaculate and easily one of my favorite parts of the tank. After all, when I set it up, I included spiderwood for this very reason, imagining the two working together to create a cohesive look. Seeing that come to fruition did not disappoint, and besides looking amazing, the fish seemed to enjoy swimming through it too. Excluding the Java fern, which for whatever reason refuses to grow in my water, all of the aquatics did well. However, since I knew I'd be redoing this at some point soon, I've been pulling Anubias and crypts for other designs, so it's sparser than it has been in times past. Even with all the roots and plant coverage, I think the Tetra's favorite place is behind the rock formations. That's partly why I wanted to redo this. I was certain I could achieve a better balance with a more elaborate hardscape, something that would allow them to continue retreating, yet in a way that they remain visible. Speaking of hidden fish, they can't hold a candle to the banjo catfish. After going into the tank, it burrowed into the sand, where it remained under the radar for nearly a year. It did eventually reemerge, though, and since then, I see it quite often. I suspect that the reason for that is because of the tetra. They've bred a few times, and only a few have grown up. The others, strangely disappeared, and I believe the catfish is the culprit. Additionally, this school has dwindled over time as the initial group from 2022 has aged out. Unfortunately, they only lived for around 3 to 5 years, which is why I wanted to add more fish to the group. Now, the idea of having glowing quartz is an iteration of a concept I first explored in the Crystal Gems Aquarium and revised in the New Ancient Ruins tank. While I enjoyed it, I thought it was time to move on from the concept and focus on something more naturalistic. That brings me to another reason why I wanted to make something new: extra materials. There's no arguing that these fish look amazing with black lava rock, and I just so happen to have buckets of it from several decommissioned tanks, meaning that I could combine these with elements from their current tank to create a completely different hardscape. One that's more focused on fish activity than holding crystals. What I was imagining would also look amazing with all the roots and spiderwood, which I could theoretically move from here to the new design, thus achieving a seasoned look from go. Finally, an aquarium perfectly suited for the described vision just opened up, specifically the Beta Antuta aquarium from last year. I was tired of battling cyanobacteria in it, which you can see the remnants of. Of course, the fish didn't seem to mind, and I moved all of the wild-type betas into other setups as part of a larger project anyway. I'm sure it's obvious what's going on here, but I'll let you fill in the blanks until that comes to full fruition. Now, with a solid idea of what I wanted to achieve, all I had to do was thoroughly clean this tank. It's a custom-built 22-gallon aquarium, measuring 36 inches wide, 12 inches deep, and 12 inches tall. The build process for that is all outlined in the previously mentioned beta video. When I set it up for that, I used these little puck lights. They do well and I like them, but given the height of the riparian plants from the other tank, I needed something else to accommodate them. My best option ended up being a linear light on adjustable mounts. With that, I could finally bring this idea to life. First, I set an egg crate foundation to prevent the stones from creating pressure points that could crack the glass. It may be unnecessary with lava rock, but these large pieces do have some decent weight to them, so better safe than sorry. I had originally used these for the living fern rock, then the minimalist mountainscape, and most recently, the no-filter guppy aquarium. Now they've become a key element for this design, which I think is pretty cool. The plan here was to build off of these with smaller stones and branches to create pass-throughs for the fish. The easiest way to create those pass-throughs was with the pointed end of the stone facing down. Yet this made it top-heavy, so I had to stabilize it with foam and a large piece of spider wood. However, I didn't like how it looked, so I swapped it out for another, which was an improvement, though I had to do more rock work before it could stick. Besides that, this was one of those scapes that just kind of came together without much thought. Really, the only challenging part was elevating the larger stones on smaller ones to create the arches. The key was aligning similar textures to produce a stable structure. Then I could reinstate the driftwood. It looked even better this time. I also slipped this smaller one below the rocks. These doubled as a platform for other stones to rest on. Again, my entire idea behind this was for the branches to work together with the plant roots to create something intriguing and cohesive. It came together quickly, but before I could go beyond this point, I had to weather the flat end of this branch. After carefully pulling it from the scape, I painted it in vise and created a weathering effect with a sawzall and pliers. Then I finalized the look with a wire brush drill bit. I know it may not look like much on camera, but I felt like it made a huge difference. I added a few more details after this,
I
which made me feel
desperately
confident
need one
enough
of
in this
those
layout
fucking
to stabilize it
tensioners
with on. The beauty
so
of
that it
using
can't
a
just
design like
flip
this
out
is that
anymore.
after it cures and the excess is removed, the porous interior
Not
closely
missing
matches the
anything,
appearance
okay.
of lava. With the newly added stability, I could remove the foam from before and add a few more details. Finally, I trimmed around the stones to eliminate excess egg crate, and like that, the initial hardscape was complete.
I'm about to switch over to Tiki Taki.
With all of the caves and crevices I wanted, it was a good start, but it would look even better with more detail. Prior to adding those, I filled the aquarium. I normally wouldn't do this so early in the process, but I knew it would be much easier to transfer everything from the other tank into this one if it had water. The tetras are agile, so I wasn't worried about working around them, but I had to be mindful of the banjo catfish. Thankfully, it was buried in an area up front that I didn't have to disturb. I never really find any joy in ruining all of the progress, yet it's exciting to make something new that's going to have potential of its own. I began by removing the small spiderwood branches, and in the process, a few of the anubias. One of which was rooted directly into a stone, which I thought was pretty cool. These looked amazing in their new home, too. However, the detail spiderwood is what truly took things to the next level. I wedged them between the stones while following the direction of the elements I had already established. When I talk about hardscape, I often discuss the need for variation in element to help establish a sense of scale. This is a perfect example of that and kind of the philosophy behind this entire design. The small branches and roots work together with the larger ones to create something more appealing. Otherwise, if everything were similarly sized, it would look too homogeneous. With those in place, I could pull the rest of the anubias, and I ended up with quite the pile. These are easily one of the best plants for this style of setting. Being epiphytes, they'll grow directly onto surfaces, and more importantly, they don't require much light. That's because all the hardscape coverage, riparian foliage, and roots will create a low-light environment similar to the old tank. More demanding plants just wouldn't last under such conditions. Plus, there's just something about the combination of lava rock, spiderwood, and anubias that just looks right. The riparian plants were rooted together and around the scape, so removing them intact was a balancing act for sure. Because the roots are intended to be a part of the design, and I wanted them to look seasoned right away, I couldn't trim them like I usually would. Instead, I wove them through the hardscape. Most of what I'm adding here is syngoniums, which produce incredible roots in the aquarium.
No,
They get fairly large, and their darker color closely resembles spiderwood. While some of the other plants, like this Fittonia, have finer roots, which you'll see later. Even though I didn't trim the roots, I did clean up the leaves. All of the browning resulted from direct
I think I'm
contact
done
with
for
the
the
light,
night,
which
actually.
wouldn't have
I'm
happened
gonna
if
go
I
on
trimmed them.
TikTok.
Again, not really a big deal, but a
I'm
good
just gonna
reminder
get
of why
this
it's
set up,
beneficial to
and we'll do a little
periodically
work
trim.
after.
I also
after
added a few new
tomorrow.
plants, like this fern. Afterward, the transfer was
done.
nearly complete.
I'm gonna go to bed.
We like snails around
My
here, so I
hand's
did my
like
best to round up as many of those
Literally,
as I
that's
could.
all redness. You
I
can
also
barely
carefully
see
pulled
it.
the
It's
catfish from
funky
the
light in
fin,
here.
which I find is easiest to do
But
by hand.
this one's fucking raw too. It's like all bruised and shit.
That meant I could freely remove
Yeah,
the
so I'm gonna go and rest
Getting
my
the
hands.
Tetris in this
and get ready
state,
for
on the
work
other
tomorrow.
hand, would be
I love
nearly
you guys. Thanks for hanging out
so
with me. I
just
really
made
appreciate it. And I'll get back to you
It came
guys
apart
about
quite easily, and after
orders.
draining most of
If you message my Instagram, Rugged Tuft, same here, same as here. We can discuss what it is you want. I can explain to you the time parameters, and I can give you my Cash App, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Have a great night. I love you so much.